I want dinosaurs in my dinosaur franchise, not alien monsters. Apparently, that's controversial. In this video, I want to talk about my problems with the mutant itself in Jurassic World Rebirth, and my problems with the way some fans of the mutant are defending it. But first, a disclaimer from Captain Obvious. Just because I don't like the mutant doesn't mean I'm writing off the movie. I am still excited for Jurassic World Rebirth, and I will go into the theater with an open mind on July 2nd, and maybe I'll walk out thinking, damn, that mutant was cool. But I'm not wrong for disliking the concept and the design based on what little we've seen so far. And if you do like the mutant, you're not wrong either. We just have different opinions. Both in my trailer reaction video and my trailer analysis video, I mentioned that I'm disappointed with the mutant, the D-Rex, being in the film. I hesitated to make a video on it because it's early days. We only have a trailer, we don't know much about the story nor about the mutant. But really, the way so many fans of the mutant are defending it pushed me over the edge to make this video. Because if you can defend the mutant based on just the trailer, I can criticize the mutant based just on the trailer. Please note again that I'm not attacking people for simply liking the mutant. I know a lot of people like it, and I have nothing against that. I'm happy for you that you are getting the kind of movie that you want. If I say, hey, I don't like the mutant in Jurassic World Rebirth, and you say, oh, okay, whatever, I do really like it, I have zero issue with that. What I want to respond to and debunk is when people say, well, actually, you're wrong for not liking it, you just don't understand it because you're a fake fan. I'm now gonna explain the mutant to you in the most condescending manner to prove to you your opinion is wrong. Thank me later. I'm gonna get into and counter that defense of the mutant, but first, just really quickly, why don't I like the mutant personally? One, because they could have added a cool new dinosaur to their dinosaur franchise instead. The mutant is taking up a slot and screen time that could have gone to a new species. Or they could have given its screen time to a beloved returning species to give that more screen time. For example, if the Spinosaurus, or the T-Rex, or the Dilophosaurus, or the Raptor is absolutely awesome in Jurassic World Rebirth, we could have had more of it, but instead they made time for this beluga whale rancor xenomorph thing. Two, on a more meta level, I don't like how this implies that dinosaurs aren't enough of a threat, aren't scary enough, aren't cool enough. Clearly they are going for some horror vibes with this thing, but I disagree that they needed this monster to achieve that. Put a dinosaur in spooky lighting and it gets the job done too. And three, finally, okay, let's say hypothetically it's July 2nd, I've seen the movie and I love it. And I agree that the mutant was a necessary addition. Even in that scenario, I'd still disagree with them taking the design this far. They could have at least made something that still looks like a dinosaur. In spite of some of their efforts, the franchise isn't exactly known for paleo accuracy, and I don't expect nor need paleo accuracy. That's not what this is about. Something like the Dominion Giga already looks like a Giga gone wrong. They could have done something like that, amp it up a little bit, maybe slap some extra tiny arms on there, and the rejected Indoraptor concept art for a head, not even bother defining the species and be like, ta-da! Mutated, failed first experiment. But instead, they looked at this, and this, and this, and they were like, yep, that's what our dinosaur movie needs. You can explain the lore to me until you are blue in the face or until your fingers have formed calluses. I'm never not gonna be disappointed with having this instead of like Acrocanthosaurus or Carcharodontosaurus, or if we go smaller, a Megaraptor, or if we go herbivorous, a Shantungosaurus. Because yes, herbivores can be dangerous and scary too. I'm not here to call anyone out personally and show their comments or tweets. I think we've all seen the types of comments I'm going to talk about, and I don't feel like I need to show receipts. But the general gist of the D-Rex defense, as far as I've seen, is Mutations are natural, it's not like it's another hybrid. Plus, it makes sense that InGen's first cloning experiments would have failed. That's realistic. This is so Jurassic Park, exactly how Michael Crichton himself would have written it. And this is how it's been the entire franchise. The animals are monsters, not real dinosaurs. That's like an amalgamation of all the defenses that I've seen. And I'm gonna take that apart one claim at a time. Not because I'm trying to convince these people that they should dislike the mutant, just to say that they should leave people who dislike it alone and respect that we just have different opinions, and it's not that deep. Mutations are natural. Yes, congratulations, you went to elementary school. This might shock you to know, but so did I. Evolution is driven by mutations. Beneficial mutations help an organism survive, thrive, and procreate to pass those genes on. And sometimes there is a disadvantageous or useless mutation, like deformities, extra limbs, extra ears. Mutations can be expressed in any number of ways. We see it in all life on Earth, including in ourselves. It is natural. This is not natural. People love pointing out that this isn't a hybrid, it's a mutant, and that's entirely different and natural, but not really. Design-wise, it's still very much a hybrid, perhaps even more so than ever. It's a hybrid of T-Rex, a gorilla, beluga whale, Muto, Rancor, Xenomorph. Obviously, in universe, that's not what it is, but the designer's inspiration is very apparent. They didn't approach this with the intent of making it look natural, they approached it with the intent of making a cool alien-looking monster. Just slapping the word mutant on it doesn't make it more natural, doesn't make it more like a real dinosaur, doesn't make it different from the hybrids we've had in the past. If anything, the hybrids we've had in the past look more like a dinosaur than this thing. We do have an example of a natural mutation in Jurassic World Rebirth, and it's the two-headed raptor, not the D-Rex. It's realistic. It makes sense. InGen's first clones failed. A lot of people picked up on it already before I did, but the facility looks way too modern to be from the late 80s, early 90s, and fit in the timeline where the trailer claims it should fit. This does not look like an original laboratory for InGen. Maybe that's an anachronistic mistake, I've said that before, but let's give the set designers some credit, let's not be too cynical, and assume it's on purpose. Then this facility is from decades after the original park, after InGen had nailed down the formula for successfully cloning their version of a dinosaur. So why are we assuming this is one of the first failed experiments and defending its inclusion with that? Would a poorly made clone even live that long? It would be around 40 years old during the events of Jurassic World Rebirth. That's a healthy lifespan for a first failed experiment. Well, maybe it's Parker Genix's first attempt at cloning. Parker Genix is the new genetic company in the film, possibly up to no good. Maybe they claimed the island after InGen relocated operations to Sorna, and they lacked Wu's experience, so they messed up, and some of their first tries are the D-Rex and the two-headed raptor. That's very possible, so let's change the defense. It's realistic. It makes sense Parker Genix's first clones failed. You're right. That does make sense. It is realistic. Damn. I guess I'm wrong after all for not liking the D-Rex. My bad. Oh no, wait. Because the Jurassic franchise isn't one long documentary that needs to retell all the details of what happened whenever any company tried to tackle cloning dinosaurs and isn't allowed to leave out any facts of history. The Jurassic franchise is a series of fictional movies in which the storyteller, the writer, and the director get to choose which story to tell. They have all the power to craft any story at any point in the timeline in any location involving any character. They didn't have to tell the story of Parker Genix's failed mutant experiments, they chose to. They could have not killed off all the dinosaurs and go back to an island. I didn't for my audiobook, and I'm not even a professional writer, but I managed to make it work in a way a lot of people like. You're telling me this billion-dollar franchise couldn't find a professional, talented screenwriter to tell any other story based on the premise of dinosaurs in our world? Their number one choice for their dinosaur franchise was to tell the story of this island of misfit dinosaurs that absolutely had to include an alien-like monster in the finale? Just because it's realistic? Because it makes sense? There was no way around this. Their hands were tied. If you like watching Star Wars or Star Trek or any space travel sci-fi content, you might have noticed that they very much lack in stories about the intrepid space crew landing on a planet, and the only alien life forms there are algae or amoeba. Instead, they tell the story of the many planets with humanoid aliens they can have lightsaber and spaceship battles with. Even though it's realistic and it makes sense that a lot of alien life out there, entire planets full, are very unexciting single-cell organisms that have no plans of epic space battles. The writers choose not to tell those stories. Instead, they choose to tell the story that fits in their franchise. They don't make a full trilogy of movies or a full season of episodes studying the different microorganisms just because statistically it's realistic and makes sense. That might be interesting to some people to watch, but that's not the story to tell in their specific franchise. The same applies here. Jurassic has always played fast and loose with accuracy and sprinkled in some locusts for which they were bombed, but at the end of the day, it's a franchise about dinosaurs. So it's disappointing to see the creatives bend over backward to tell a story that substitutes a dinosaur for a mutant inspired by two aliens. And yes, they did bend over backward to tell this specific story. 2 movies built up to dinosaurs in our world, setting up endless story potential, and they backtracked all of it to go back to the island with the mutant. They invented an environmental issue that shrinks the dinosaur population back down to remote locations. They invented a new company. They invented a new island just to tell this story. So much effort to tell this story. I think that's baffling and disappointing that they tried so hard to make a story in which it's realistic and makes sense that there's gonna be a mutant that doesn't look any bit like a dinosaur. And if they were so set on telling the story of this island, which I disagree with, but I'll play along, they didn't need to include the failed experiment as the big villain in the finale. They could have shown its corpse in a vat, just like the 2-headed raptor, to get the point across. InGen or Parker Genix made some really messed up shit in their early days. Wow, look how freaky this thing is. The actual villain dinosaur at the end could have been the second iteration, something that at least looked more like an actual dinosaur. And again, back to the disclaimer at the start, maybe Jurassic World Rebirth will be awesome, maybe the mutant will be awesome, I hope it will be. But a different story, no mutant, just dinosaurs, no island, just dinosaurs in our world, could have been awesome too. In my opinion, more awesome. I'm allowed to be a little bit disappointed. And I do mean a little bit. If you've seen my reaction video and my trailer analysis, you already know that I am hyped for this movie. There was a lot in that trailer that makes me absolutely giddy, and even some things that I don't like that I have no problem looking past. The mutant is a minor part that only disappoints me a bit. I'm not walking around stewing in righteous rage about this creative decision. I know this video in a vacuum is going to give a skewed perspective because this video is so negative, but keep in mind that I've already done 2 positive videos about the trailer. It's exactly what Michael Crichton would have done. Michael Crichton wrote 2 novels in the Jurassic franchise and neither of them had something like this. He could have included something like this, but he chose not to. He chose not to tell the early days of InGen cooking up the first clones, but skipped ahead so he could tell a scientifically believable story with dinosaurs. That's what he wanted to tell, and that's what we wanted to read. He referenced failed experiments, but he didn't write a D-Rex into his novels. Instead, the creatures he used he named after real species. He took creative liberties, but the animals he described looked like dinosaurs. And the same goes for the movie franchise. The dinosaurs were always not real dinosaurs, but monsters.
Is create genetically engineered theme park monsters, nothing more and nothing less.
I've seen this clip floating around, but this is not the slam dunk people think it is. Because even though the dinosaurs were always genetically engineered theme park monsters, they still looked like dinosaurs. That was the point, within the canon and for the franchise. Not paleo-accurate dinosaurs, but still believable dinosaurs. Even though the movies did put some work into bringing real paleontology into the film, some of it's outdated, and some of it they took creative liberty with, in part because they could. They aren't real dinosaurs. And I'm cool with that. I want to reiterate, I'm not harping on this mutant because I want 100% paleo accuracy. That's not what I come to the Jurassic franchise for. I love the big velociraptors. I love the outdated Spinosaurus. I love the oversized Mosasaurus. I love the shaved tail Therizinosaurus. They still look close enough to be dinosaurs. This thing is not a dinosaur, and I just think that's a waste. The animals were always theme park monsters, but made to look convincingly like prehistoric creatures until now. No design ever pushed the boat out this far. Not even the Scorpius Rex went quite this far. And make no mistake, I already think the Scorpius Rex did go too far. It's really frustrating that we're supposed to be done with hybrids, but now those hybrids look more like dinosaurs than this thing. If you want to tell a story about a shady company cooking up a monster in a lab and it all going wrong, you can just do that outside of the Jurassic franchise. That's pretty standard sci-fi fare. If you want to make a monster movie, make a monster movie. You don't need to feel apologetic about that. Just don't hijack the sequel in a dinosaur franchise to achieve it. And yeah, there are still dinosaurs in Jurassic World Rebirth too, which is why I'll say again, I'm not writing off the movie, I'm still excited to see it. But based on the trailers and the leaks, it's the main villain, the main threat. It's the apex that the plot builds towards. It's set up to be the main recognizable feature of the film. When people talk about the franchise a decade from now, they're gonna be like, oh, Fallen Kingdom, that's the one with the Indoraptor, Dominion is the one with the locusts, oh, and Rebirth is the one with the monster. Even if it has only a few minutes of screen time, that's still screen time. We could have had a dinosaur instead. Or at least a mutant that still looks like a dinosaur. Because again, we've already accepted that the Jurassic franchise takes liberties with its designs. They didn't need to take it this far to tell this story that they apparently felt they had to tell. Like that was their first choice. Maybe they even felt like it was their only choice. If you love the mutant, that's fine. But none of these arguments will convince me that this story, and this design specifically, was the best way to go. It doesn't change my mind. If I saw this thing in a trailer for a random sci-fi movie, I'd be like, wow, that's a pretty cool monster. I just don't like it in my dinosaur franchise. It doesn't mean I won't enjoy Jurassic World Rebirth, I hope I'll love it, but I'm not wrong for disliking the mutant. It's just my opinion. If you are like me and you're not a fan of the mutant either, or the return to the island setting, give my audiobook a go. It's a sequel to the Jurassic World trilogy with new characters and dinosaurs in our world. Or maybe give some of my other videos a shot. It would really help out my channel.